Hey Sibs! This week I'm doing a sort of review of the Firefly board game, which is a big and complicated thing, and we'll just get right into it. This is the Firefly board game in all of its glory. As you can see, it completely takes over our kitchen table. There's really no room to have anything else on there, and it's quite crowded as it is. This area right here is one player's stuff. I've only bothered to put out enough for the one player here. I didn't do it for all the rest, but there would be just as much around all of those others. So the game has a lot of pieces. You can see there are 5 different decks of cards that represent things that you can buy for the 5 different places you can buy things. There are 5 different decks of cards for the people who you can do jobs for, such as Niska and Badger. Then there are 2 different decks that you use to decide what happens as you try and travel through space, whether you're in Alliance space or Border space. Then there's a Misbehave deck that you use to decide what the outcome is when you try and do some crime. Then, of course, you have all the many pieces that have to go with your ship. You have fuel and parts and cargo and contraband and passengers and fugitives that you can have. And then there's the warrants that can be issued against you and goals to indicate that you've reached part of one of the goals for this mission. And then you have these little cute sad faces for if you have your crew gets disgruntled with you. And then of course you have to have money to keep track of how much money you've earned. And then you have these cards, which you usually only one of these for each game, and it basically tells you what your goals are for this particular game. This one is Niska's Holiday, and the idea is you want to get in so good with Niska that you'll be basically set for life. 4 Firefly pieces to move around the board for the 4 players, 1 big Alliance cruiser and a Reaver cutter to attack you with. 2 6-sided dice that you use to roll to decide if you pass certain skill tests. In a lot of ways, this is like a role-playing game. Your different characters have different skill abilities, and you roll the dice to see if you pass different tests throughout the game in order to succeed at your crime. This is one of my favorite parts. This game is so complicated, and you spend a lot of time trying to figure out well, which of these jobs should I take, and which of these things should I buy? And you don't really want to hold up the game for everyone. So, assuming that's the last thing for you to do on your turn, you can take this little thing here and pass it on to the next player. And whoever has the dinosaur, that's the player whose turn it is right now. Overlapping turns like this becomes very, very important because otherwise the game just goes on forever and ever, and everyone spends a lot of time just waiting for other players to make up their minds what they want to do. What are the good things about this game? Well, if you're a Firefly fan, there's a lot to love about this game. A lot of the things that happen in the show can happen to you. You can be attacked by Reavers, you can run into the Alliance, you can do jobs for Niska and for Badger, and to add more realism like the show, if you get a warrant issued against you when you're working for Niska, it kills one of your crew members. And Niska, of course, has the best paying jobs, but a lot of them are immoral, and they're very, very dangerous. All the cards have at least some little quote or something from the show that relates to what the card does. Like one of the Misbehave cards is called The Best Day Ever, and the first option for what you can do to pass the card is called I Was Pompous, and the second one is called And My Sister Was Crazy. Then there's a Misbehave card called Let's Go to the Little Crappy Town Where I'm a Hero. Where if you have Jane's hat, then you immediately pass. They do a great job of replicating the language from the show, not just in quotes, but in general ways of saying things in the instructions for the game and in the game itself. It's always fun when you can get the actual characters that you love from the show, and of course they have the best abilities. It's fun when you can get both Jane and Vera together, or when you get, say, Bridget, who has 2 other alter egos, and if someone gets one of those other alter egos, then you lose her. Downsides to the game are it can take a really long time to set up, and it can take a really long time to play, especially when you're first getting started. Until you get sort of the hang of how it works and can make your decisions more quickly, you'll find yourself frequently making mistakes, flying away from a planet when you still had work to do there, and you need to learn to overlap your turns, as I talked about before. Otherwise, everyone is waiting on one person to make up their mind what they're shopping for. Because it's a complex game and there's lots of different sort of interacting rules, the rule book really should be better organized. All the information is mostly there. There's some gaps that you just have to make up your mind what you're going to decide it means. But the bigger deal is there's no index. So if you're wondering, my cargo got stolen, how am I going to get more cargo so I can complete this job? There's not an easy, obvious place to go to say, well, here's how you can get more cargo. It's hard for me to say how much someone who is not a Firefly fan would like this game. I suppose it could probably appeal pretty well to anyone who really likes the kind of complexities of a role-playing type game, but something that you can set up quickly without having to have a dungeon master and a big plan. But what the real bang for your buck is if you're a fan of the show, because it's so much fun to say, I got Simon Tam! Oh, and I have River too, and that means that she's going to be super awesome because he gives her pluses on this roll. It's really a lot of fun to get to just see the different parts of the show kind of come to life again in the game. And of course it made us want to go watch the show again, which we've started rewatching some of the episodes. You guys should try it out if you're at all interested, and let me know what you think. And until next week, stay shiny! Yes, yes, this is a fertile land, and we will thrive. We will rule over all this land, and we will call it this land.